Hey, good people, welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am reviewing The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 3, Episode 12, titled White Lies and Black Eyes. Guys, this episode was crazy. It was just, it was something else, okay? Heather's denial about this black eye. First, she says she doesn't know what happens. Then she says that she does know what happens. She's all over the place. Lisa girl, I don't feel bad for you, not one bit. You need to drop this whole victim BS. Do we believe Whitney's theory that it was actually Jen who messed up Heather's eye? And Heather is trying to protect Jen because she knows that if she does say something, it's going to look bad for Jen's trial. I'm really leaning towards that. Anywho, you guys let me know what you think. Leave a comment below. Remember to like and subscribe. And without further ado, let's go. When the episode opens up, the ladies are still in San Diego. They are hung over. You guys remember the night before? They were drinking and having a grand old time. Jen looks like a train wreck. Meredith says she feels like Jen looks, so she's making light of how Jen looks. Jen then receives a text from Heather to come to her room. When Jen arrives to the room, Heather takes off her shades and we see that Heather has a black eye. Jen is like, can I touch it? Is that okay? And I'm like, girl, don't put your dirty hands in my face. But Heather allows her to touch it. For what reason? I don't know. At first, I'm thinking, okay, Heather probably fell. It's nothing serious. They were drunk, whatever. But then we see that she has scratches on her arm. So clearly something went down with someone. She asks Jen to help her come up with a story because according to Heather, she does not want anyone to get in trouble. So she's clearly protecting someone. Jen comes up with this cockamamie story talking about, well, maybe a spider laid an egg in your eye. Heather tells Jen she doesn't know what happened. She sends a text to Meredith to ask her to come to the room. Meredith gets there and Heather takes off her sunglasses for the big reveal. And Meredith is shocked. She can't believe what she's seeing. She's asking Heather, like, girl, what happened? When did this happen? We were together until 4 a.m. They do show the flashback that shows that all of them were together. Meredith, Jen, Heather, and Angie. Eventually, they all left, and it looks like Heather goes to bed. Heather says to Meredith, I don't want to talk about it. Like, if you don't want to talk about it, why do you keep showing your eye to everybody? Clearly, it's a conversation that you want to have. In my opinion, if you want to kind of keep it to yourself, then why not just book the next flight out of there and go home? Stay away from the girls for a while, let your eye heal, and come back. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you being so dramatic about something that you say you don't want to talk about? I'm thinking, honestly, clearly she did not fall and hurt herself. So was it Whitney who did this? In the next scene, Lisa actually visits Whitney, and honestly, none of them are acting like they are guilty of doing anything. Whitney seems fine. Lisa seems fine. They have a conversation and Lisa asks Whitney, do you feel okay? Whitney's like, no. And then here she goes trying to throw Meredith under the bus again. Except for the fact that there is no bus to throw Meredith under because Meredith didn't do anything wrong. This is all going back to the whole conversation that Meredith and Whitney had at Whitney's house, where Whitney brings up the Lisa rumor. If you guys don't know, she alleged that she heard Lisa was cheating on her husband for some Utah Jazz tickets. Whitney brought that up, but Whitney is trying to flip the script and make it seem like Meredith has conspired somehow to make all of the women look bad and get them to be the ones to say these rumors that they've heard about Lisa. I'm like, girl, that is so far-fetched. You will do anything you can to try to make yourself look good, instead of just owning up to the fact that you lied. I mean, it's evident she lied. Am I wrong? Am I missing something? And the fact that she's admitted to Lisa basically that she lied, if I'm Lisa, I'm looking at her like, girl, you're not somebody that I want to really get close to me because you keep telling these falsehoods. So Lisa says, I just don't understand. One mistake and a whole friendship. And it's like, let me find a way to ruin you. She's talking about how she views Meredith is looking at her. Lisa, what you did should never have come out of your mouth. It was not a mistake, in my opinion. You said exactly what you felt in that moment, and it was the ugliest of the ugly. I don't know anybody who would still be best friends with a person who talked about them the way that she talked about Meredith. So please, stop acting like what you did was nothing. It was a lot. Lisa, Whitney, and Dana meet in the living room. And again, no one seems like they're responsible for Heather's eye. They're going on like business as usual. We see Heather make her way to the living room with the rest of the women. And she says in her confessional that she's really dreading hanging out with them. She doesn't want to talk about the black eye, the same stuff that we've already heard. We're not even 5 minutes into the episode and I'm already over this black eye with Heather. I just cannot. Jen walks in looking like one of the Spice Girls. Everyone is in the living room at this point in time. Whitney asks what happened last night. She heard that people were flashing one another and nobody came to the room to flash her. Heather says, I think we all know what happened last night, but nobody wants to talk about it. So everybody's like, what happened? Heather takes off her sunglasses in her dramatic form that we have already seen twice and reveals the black eye. The ladies are all stunned. Oh my God, what happened? Everybody's asking her what happened. In Heather's confessional, the producer asks her, how does she think the black eye happened? Heather says, what does it look like? So again, she's not answering the questions and I just cannot. Also, if Heather says one more again that her black eye doesn't look that bad, I'm gonna go off. Here goes dramatic Whitney in her confessional talking about she feels so physically sick that Heather is just laughing off the black eye and acting like nothing happened. Whatever, Whitney. Because Heather is not sharing anything, the rest of the women just decide to start their day and they are headed go-kart racing. As they're on the go-karts, Heather and Lisa are riding together. Heather says that she chose to ride with Lisa because she knows most of the time Lisa is just going to sit there and talk about herself, which is exactly when they show the flashback what she was doing. Everything was about how much she spent on this and what her husband said about that. It was just really self-centered, a very self-centered conversation. The rest of the women are all in their go-karts doing what? Talking about Heather's black eye. In each of these conversations that these women are having, they're all saying at first they thought that Heather fell, but then seeing the rest of the bruises on her, they believe that somebody did something to her, which is quite obvious. They pan back over to Lisa and Heather, and of course, Lisa is still talking about herself. So sad. Whitney, Dana, and Lisa go rollerblading while Meredith and the rest of the ladies go wine tasting. Whitney and crew start to talk about Heather's black eye. Whitney felt like at first Heather must have done it to herself or that Jen did it to Heather, and Heather is covering up for Jen because she knows that Jen has these legal cases going on. She feels as if Heather is trying to protect her from any other legal things happening to Jen, which is a very good point. You know, I don't really care for Whitney, but sometimes her theories make sense to me. Over on the other side of town, Meredith is talking to Heather and she lets Heather know, girl, I don't know what happened to you, but I want you to know that what happened is not okay at any level. During this scene, I was really paying attention to Jen, and I have to be honest with you guys, Jen does look guilty. She's not even engaged in this conversation. Heather says to Meredith, girl, I just don't want to talk about it. I know how to handle this. So, of course, Meredith leaves it alone. Heather says in her confessional that she refuses to tell what happened. At this point, it's all just a game. Heather then changes the conversation and talks about her relationship status with Whitney. She feels like Whitney is trying to pull Heather into all of this stuff with Lisa, and I absolutely agree with her. Whitney starts fires and then tries to hide her hands. I don't trust Whitney at all. I just don't trust her with any of your information or sharing any information because she will definitely turn it around on you. Meredith brings up the SEC filing and something about crowdfunding. I don't really know what any of this means, to be quite honest with you, but apparently Lisa is involved with this, or at least one of her businesses is involved with some type of SEC filing. And something about $25,000. From my understanding, I think Lisa didn't have the capital, or people that do SEC filings don't necessarily have the capital, the money to put up or their business to get up off the ground. So they go and they borrow this money from different individuals. Meredith doesn't understand why somebody that's so rich, as Lisa proclaims, and Heather is saying the same thing, if she is so rich, why does she need to borrow money from people? I think that is a valid question. Back over with the rollerblading ladies, Dana reveals to Lisa that Meredith shared information regarding Lisa's SEC filing. Lisa is all up in arms. She's saying it's BS. Meredith is trying to intentionally hurt her. This is my thing. The way that she showed her behind last year towards Meredith in that rant, tirade, whatever you want to call it, Meredith is well within her right, in my opinion, to say and do anything within reason comparable to what Lisa did to her. I'm sorry. It's fair game now. You came not only for me, you brought my husband, you brought my children, you brought our business in it. No, that's not okay. So now my gloves are off and I'm coming swinging. I see nothing wrong with what Meredith is doing. I'm sorry. God is not finished with me yet. I believe an eye for an eye. Secondly, I don't care for Dana at all. This is like the second time that she is being a bone collector. Girl, I understand that somebody has to do it, but you're too new to do it. So just keep your mouth shut, okay? Get integrated with the women. Get to know these women before you start telling stuff and picking sides. I can't. Towards the end of their conversation, Lisa alludes to the fact that Meredith pops pills. You know what, Lisa? This is exactly why you are where you are with Meredith. Girl, stop. Meredith and her group are now in the limo. They are on their way back to the house. In the limousine, Angie wants to know more about this crowdfunding information. Girl, why? Why are you concerned? Heather and Meredith do the best that they can to explain it to her. Honestly, they seem to be very drunk. Jen is too busy on her phone. At first, I thought she was texting and scrolling the internet, but it appears she is looking up this whole situation with Lisa. And she finds the filing information and shares with the ladies what it says. In Angie's confessional, she says that she is so uncomfortable about them talking about Lisa and her business behind her back. I'm like, girl, you're the one who brought it up. They were done with that conversation. Had you not have said anything else, they would not be talking about it. And now you're uncomfortable. And if you're uncomfortable, how come you don't say anything? In her confessional, she goes on to say, looking at the items that Lisa has, she does not believe that Lisa is broke. Well, we didn't think that Jen had a money problem either until we recently found out that they raided her home and half of her jewelry appears to be fake. We can't take what we see from any of you women at face value. Once they are all back at the house, the ladies get ready for Angie's Grecian dinner. Angie goes to Lisa's room and we already know that she's going to fill Lisa in on the conversation that the ladies were having about her in the car. Lisa shares with Angie the information that Whitney told her while they were rollerblading. And of course, like I said, Angie goes ahead and shares with Lisa what they were discussing in the car, but she tells a lie. She's going to sit there and say that Meredith said that John doesn't have a job. Now, Meredith never said that. I had to go back and rewind this episode just to make sure that I was correct. Meredith talks about Lisa saying that Seth doesn't have a job. So if you're going to go back and tell the story, make sure that you tell the story correctly, okay? I can't stand people that are so quick to tell something that's not even correct. So, of course, upon Lisa hearing this information, she's pissed because she's now focused on Meredith talking about her husband. This show really, this season, I didn't see it at first, but it is really turning into Team Lisa, Team Meredith, especially with these new people on the show. Lastly, Lisa getting all up in arms about Meredith allegedly talking about John is ridiculous to me considering the fact that you named Seth last year in your rant. Girl, really? What a hypocrite. So now the ladies are all at the dinner. Lisa says that she has zero interest in being at the dinner. If you don't want to be there, then go home. Okay, nobody is forcing you to be here. I'm sure you have fulfilled your obligation for today. So she's all in a mood. Jen picks up on her vibes and asks her what's going on. What's wrong with you? Lisa's like, oh, nothing is wrong. No, mouth almighty, you had so much to say before. Go ahead and tell Jen what's wrong. Lisa's not trying to say nothing. They're all waiting for Angie to come down. Angie comes down carried by two men like she's Cleopatra or something. She shares in her confessional that both of her parents are from Greece and she really wants to share her culture with the rest of the ladies. She gifts them with an evil eye, which is supposed to ward off any negative thoughts and bad energy. So Whitney, you know how she is. She gets right into it and asks the women who brought up Lisa's SCC filing. Lisa then takes over and says, why is everybody so worried about my filing? Meredith, who still seems like she is drunk, said no one is worried. Lisa says to her, did you talk about my business? Meredith says, well, just in passing, like, not really. Then Lisa says, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. She thinks that it's funny that the ladies have been talking about her. Here goes Meredith. Oh, Lisa, you want to chit chat about everybody else. Lisa starts to mock Meredith and says that Meredith talked about John not having a job. Meredith said to her, your husband has a job. Like, I never said that. Lisa then turns to Angie for help because you know she's the one who actually said that. And it's like, wait a minute, why are you asking Angie? Now Heather, putting two and two together, asks Lisa Lisa if Angie came back to the house and shared what they talked about on the way home. She asks Lisa, "Is that why you're so pissed?" In her confessional, Heather says that Lisa does not want to hear about her filing. It's embarrassing. She feels like Angie should have just pretended like she didn't hear anything. Heather then directs her energy towards Angie and tells her what you did was in poor taste, hosting a dinner and then stirring up trouble before it starts. Here goes Angie talking about, well, I was uncomfortable that you guys as Lisa's friends were talking ish about her in the car. Girl, you brought it up. And I think it's quite funny that she's saying this when it wasn't even 2 episodes ago when she was doing the same thing to Jen. Y'all remember after Jen poured that drink on her head that she was going all around town to anybody who would listen, talking mess about Jen. Now all of a sudden you have a problem about a friend talking about another friend? Once again, another hypocrite. Lisa saying to Meredith, was the point of you saying all this to show flaws in who I am? Meredith says no. The point is, if you want to sit and question my husband's business, Lisa cuts her off and says, I did not question his stuff. I said something absolutely ridiculous in a rant. Meredith says, yes, and you endangered the livelihood of 4,000 of the employees that works for him. That's reckless. So Jenna's like, well, how many times are we going to talk about this rant? And if I'm Meredith until I'm satisfied about talking about it, I mean, like, really, Lisa? Lisa says she wants to move forward. What does she have to do to move forward? Meredith says she explained it to her before. She says that Lisa has tried to turn things around on Meredith, talking about the mentally ill comment. They go back and forth, and at this point, it's just the same old with the two of these women. Now they're starting to talk about if Lisa's outburst last year was a rant or a tirade. Meredith feels like it was a tirade. Lisa feels like it was a rant. I don't really care, okay? All I know is that Lisa was dead wrong. And Meredith should absolutely 100% hold her accountable until she is satisfied. Call me petty if you want. That's just how I feel. If you guys go back and listen to the things that Lisa was saying about Meredith, like, girl, really? I can't get past that. I'm sorry. I just can't. So now Lisa is talking about Meredith continuing to hold her responsible for one mistake. Meredith says in her confessional, it's more than just the one mistake. Lisa has been doing little things to her for years now. She mentions Lisa talking behind her back, not calling her when her dad was dying, and the most ridiculous claim that Meredith came up with is the fact that Lisa canceled a makeup artist seeing Meredith right in the middle of a pandemic. Girl, that's a stretch. Heather, trying to be the voice of reason in the group, says her eye might be a metaphor for everybody's friendships with one another. And as soon as Heather is talking, you see Whitney's eyes looking directly at Jen. It was definitely Jen who messed up Heather's eye. Heather continues, we woke up, we don't know where it is coming from. It's ridiculous. Sometimes we wear a patch, sometimes we let it all out, sometimes we sweep it under the rug. In her confessional, the producers say to Heather, you say you don't know what happened to your eye. Heather, having some sort of amnesia once again, says, I didn't say that. I didn't ever say that. And I'm like, girl, yes, you did. You said you don't know what happened to your eye. She goes on to say that I just said I'm not talking about it. Back at the table, Whitney asks, how did you get a black eye? Heather says, well, let me tell you something. If anybody ever knocks on your door like a secret knock, don't answer it. She says to the group, to be clear, I don't know exactly what happened to my eye. Once again, she's denying knowing what happened to her eye. Back in her confessional, the producers ask, why don't you want to talk about it? Who are you trying to protect? Heather says she's trying to protect herself, and that's the end of the episode. This was a whole mess, guys. Like, Heather and this eye denial, it's like, girl, you either gonna let us know what happened or just keep your mouth shut, okay? Case closed. Meredith and Lisa, it's gonna be, listen, they're not gonna move on until Meredith is ready to move on. I really don't care for these newbies. I don't like Angie K, and I do not like Dana. They are very messy. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.